my life got substantially better when I realized nobody cares about my problems, right? And it's like this full own, it's true, right? Like when you realize nobody cares and you have full ownership of your problems, no one else is to blame, your life just skyrockets, man, because everything that you need to get done, you get done. You realize your health is on you, your income is on you, your intimate relationships are on you, right?
All right, bro, let's kick off. So I want to start with one of your tweets. So firstly, man, I love following your Twitter to begin with, but I want to start with something slightly different. So one of your tweets from last year was having close family members pass away, being broke and filling vending machines, never achieving my goal of being a professional footballer, all made me a better person today. Your most painful moments are what build your character. How do you think some of those like events and factors have influenced where you are at the moment?
It's a really good question, man. And I think like adversity is kind of what builds you, to be honest. That you're never going to get any kind of character from living a soft, comfortable life. And people say like, you can cope your way to success. And I think it's true, right? Like if you're dealing with a lot of negative kind of feedback loops, right? Yeah, if you failed at a few things, maybe life isn't going your way, like there's a bit of a fire under your ass to say, you know what, I want to fucking make something of myself, man. Like I'm annoyed at this situation, and like you cope in a way to be successful, right? It's like coping your way to success, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like if you're a guy that's like potentially short, right, and you're insecure about being short, go and cope your way to getting jacked, right? If you're not very good looking and that you feel that holds you back, cope your way to being really rich, right? Like use this negative as a way to get you the positive things in your life. And I think a lot of people nowadays, they beat themselves up, right? They're like, oh look, I'm ugly, I'm short, I'm this, I'm that, and they don't use that as a way to get ahead, right? Like everything is fucking fuel, man. Like everything is fuel. Your wins are fuel, but also the negatives that happen to you, they're fucking fuel, man. Use that as fuel to move forward. And that's the mindset that I've always had throughout my life.
Man, think of everybody else that would be the opposite to say, I'm short, I can't go after a good looking girl or whatever. So that's an attitude thing, man. That's like fucking ingrained in you, or else you might have beaten it into yourself as well. The fact that when you see something that's negative, you actually want to do better and maybe do something different. A kind of 100%. Similar example is like in a work sense, when people don't get a promotion or don't get the feedback that they want, some people sulk and cry, whereas other people will leave and build their own business.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And it's how you choose to kind of deal with it and respond to it, and your perception of it will dictate the future, right?
Of course, man. How did you go from filling vending machines to building like online coaching business?
Good question, man. So I'll kind of start at the beginning. So I was basically, as a kid, I was starting to play football as a young kid. Got into kind of like I didn't make it as a professional, as I kind of mentioned in that tweet, and then I got into becoming kind of quite insecure in my body, right? So I started hitting the gym. I was around a load of big rugby players, and then I started making loads of mistakes with fitness. I then decided, right, I'm going to start looking at the research, start getting some mentors. My progress kind of shot up. I was getting tons of people messaging me like, hey man, how do I get in shape? Set up a website while I was at university, right, to just get some extra money. Went into the corporate world whilst kind of running this side business, realized that it wasn't for me. Quit naively without much savings, and after a few months I kind of went broke, right? And then I had a friend said to me like, look, I've got a vending machine business that you can kind of fill. Vending machines like 12 hours a day. You got to wake up at 4 a.m. You're going to finish at 4 p.m. You got to drive around the south of London and put Kit Kats in vending machines. And to me, I didn't really have any other option at this point. I needed the cash to pay my rent because I was broke. And it gave me time to kind of like build my business on the side. So pretty cool story, man. And I did that for a few months, which was again like a good way to kind of build character, you could say, and have a fun story to tell on podcasts. But after that kind of happened, I just started to blow up a little bit online and through kind of my content and perseverance, really, man. That's all it was. And I say this story on podcasts quite a lot, that I've always had raw and like unwavering self-belief, right? Like even when I was down and I was broke and no one would have believed in me, I always believed in myself. And that's one of the things that I think is really important as anyone that wants to not only be successful but run a business and be successful, because as an entrepreneur, you have to kind of do things that a lot of people think that aren't going to be realistic, right? And you have to really have that kind of ruthless mindset to say that it doesn't matter what happened, I'm going to get through this adversity and I'm going to come out on top. And luckily now I'm like 6 years into running my business, and it's now something I do full time. I work with people from all over the world, and I get to kind of live on my own terms, which I've always wanted, man. So I kind of went from filling chocolate bars into vending machines to telling people to not eat chocolate anymore and be healthy. So
Man, you know what's funny there is like if you don't believe in yourself, fucking nobody's going to, if you think about it.
Yeah,
And like for you, like you're working with, fucking high profile individuals or entrepreneurs or whatever, like you need to back yourself in those instances that, oh, you can help me, you can help whoever. But if you don't do it, people are going to sense insecurity. So even if you
yeah,
do feel slightly insecure in that instance, like you still just need to kind of go balls to wall with it. And actually speak to even my dad sometimes on that, because like for my online business, he's kind of like, are you sure like that's gonna like, it's the right market and stuff? And you have to convince yourself it's right. There's an
yeah.
element of like craziness in those kind of founders and entrepreneurs because they need it, because otherwise it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. And your family are going to be sometimes the first people to say, maybe this might not work. Not from the fact that they don't want you to succeed, but it's kind
Hmm.
of like, they don't understand, right? It's naivety on their part that they don't understand the online world, right? Like parents that have worked a 9 to 5 traditionally and known that there's only kind of one way of earning money, going into a job, working really hard, working your way up the corporate ladder, and then, making a success of yourself is the only thing that they know. So sometimes it's good to kind of like educate them on this new thing, but also you just got to be like, leave it with me. I believe in myself. Give me 5 years and I'll be there. And hopefully if you work hard enough, you make the right moves, it happens, man. So yeah.
Hmm. That's interesting, man. What advice would you have for younger people that don't have the, like I say, experience to kind of give themselves that some bit of confidence? And that's a big thing, the element of confidence. But if you don't have that experience going into this, how would you kind of advise someone to believe in themselves?
100%, man. So, podcasts like this are fantastic. You might not have people in person that can help you, but if you can go online, there's huge communities, there's great podcasts that are going to kind of teach you how to do things. There's a lot of membership sites and things like that that are going to kind of
Mhm.
give you the tools, the motivation, the accountability, and things like that. I would even potentially seek out like a mentor, right? Like if you're willing to do the hard work, you're 18, 19, you've not got much money, but you're willing to do the work, you're willing to be adaptable, you're willing to learn. There's a lot of people in, senior positions that are running successful businesses that would love to have, someone like you kind of there to help them. But also like young, older guys that are successful, they see like raw talent in people, right? They see like the drive and that attitude to be successful, and they want to mentor people like that, right? Because they were like, I was in that
100%.
position once, right? And this guy's keen, he's got a good attitude, he's coachable, with the right kind of framework in place, he's going to be successful in 5 to 10 years. You don't have to be there's this quote, I forgot who tweeted it. It's someone like Ed Latimore, but it's like you don't have to be at the person's level yet, but you have to be like on your way to that level for people to kind of
Mhm.
take an interest, right? So as long as you've set your goal there and you're willing to kind of apply yourself, a lot of people will see that as a way to you be coachable to be successful, if that makes sense.
Exactly, man. I think when we discussed as well before we started recording about even having a podcast when you're reaching out to people, like
Yeah,
people who are super experienced, do love that aspect of bringing people along, especially if
100%.
they're not there saying like, "Oh, I'm better than you." If I'm like a 20, when I started my podcast, I was like 24. If I was reaching out to even people like yourself at the time, being like, "Oh, I'm going to show you how to do this," of
Yeah, yeah,
course, people are going to look down on it. But the fact you come from a learner's position and like
yeah, and
an
a humble
open
position
mind,
as well. Yeah, exactly.
exactly, exactly.
And I think that's a
Even if you
big
come
one.
with issues, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, go on. I think that was a good one. Yeah, for sure.
Of course, it's just like just coming from a position of you're there to actually help other people and you're there to actually learn,
Hmm.
goes a long way, because a lot of people would have had those struggles that you didn't have in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly, for sure.
One area I wanted to get into was yourself hanging out with Top G Andrew Tate. So
Sure.
that is fucking wild, man, to begin with. So for people, for a bit of context, how did that come about?
So it's a crazy story how I met Andrew. So I was in Prague and I posted a video on my Twitter page that I was in Prague, and this was his old account at the time. It was like Morpheus Resist or something like that. I've got the
Mhm.
screenshot, but he basically sent me a DM from Twitter to be like, "Hey man, I'm in Prague. He's like, my jet's just landed. Do you want to hang out?" I think he was looking to just go for a smoke and relax and chill. So I didn't actually believe it to begin with because I was like, "Oh, Andrew Tate messaging me. This is a bit wild," but I just thought,
Yeah.
fuck it. Decided to go meet him, and hung out with him for a couple of hours. And man, he is one of the most like charismatic, fun, and like cool guys that I've really hung out with. And the media perception of him is crazy. The way that the media have
Mhm.
kind of painted him out as the bad guy is crazy, because I can only go off the experience that I met with him in real life. And I think most people that have got a good head on their shoulders would really get on with him, man. He's a really good, charismatic, honest, and fun guy, in my opinion.
100%, man. The good he's done for young people to pull them out of like shitty situations or to give them some sort of light to show that, look, you can be making the equivalent of your fucking vending machine job online by doing X, Y, and Z. Or
Yeah.
you could also provide for your family, provide for your girlfriend, and be an actual responsible man. That stuff is just incredibly important, incredibly valuable. And I felt like that, even when he probably connected with you at the time, the stuff that he's saying is so like relatable, but also helpful, because there's not a lot of people out there that's speaking through the bullshit,
Yeah.
and have the same voice and tonality that he was able to kind of get across.
100%. He's very articulate, and one of the big things that I think he does is he's courageous and he speaks the truth, right? And I think
Hmm.
99% of the stuff that he says is true, but most people, their ego can't handle what he says. And his whole message is like, right, as a guy, you need to be a respectable man, and as a woman, you
Hmm.
need to be a respectable woman, right? Like, as a guy, go work hard, provide, be financially successful, go to the fucking gym, don't be fat, don't be lazy. All the shit that like self-improvement's been telling us for years, he puts across. And
Hmm.
the same with women, right? He's like, be a respectable woman. Don't sleep around with loads of guys and stuff and go into bad relationships. Look for a guy who's successful and that is doing well for himself. And you think like, most of us that are in this self-improvement space, we get it, man. We get it, right?
Yeah.
But when this has hit the mainstream, a lot of the mainstream, right, they're stuck in this perpetual cycle of porn addiction, right? Overweight. They are, deep into mainstream media and like woke ideology. And Andrew Tate speaking this with such clarity and, without kind of any bullshit, scares a lot of people, right? Because they've never been spoken to like this. They've never been exposed to these ideas. They've always been in a comfortable environment, right? And then what happens is the media, they see this, right? You could say the Matrix. And what they're seeing is someone speak out, speak the truth, talk and kind of expose a lot of the shit that's going on in modern society, which is causing people to be very kind of like depressed, upset, and things
Hmm.
like that. And then what they've done is they've decided to use him as a scapegoat and paint him out as the bad guy, the rapist, the misogynist, the people trafficker, right? Which 100% I can tell you is not true, right? It's
Hmm.
he's definitely not that kind of guy. But again, that's the danger of the media, is they can paint you out to be a certain person, and the mainstream are just not gonna read into it deep enough to think, oh, like, is this true? Is it not? They'll believe everything they hear. So if a news article says Andrew Tate is a people trafficker, everyone in the mainstream does not have the time, the depth and critical thinking to be like,
Hmm.
maybe this is wrong. Straight away, they're like, he's a human trafficker. He's this, he's that. And ever since that stuff has come out, I've had DMs from people because I've got a photo with him on my Instagram. People are going, I can't believe you're friends with a rapist. Can't believe you're friends with a people trafficker, right? Like, just sending me all these hate messages. And it's just crazy that people cannot think for themselves. They cannot discern. There's no critical thinking, and they'll believe everything they read. And I think that that's a sad place that like modern society is going in. And secondly, how powerful the mainstream media is, that they can influence this many people in that kind of way.
100%, man. It's even the way things are rolled. Of course, it's all taken from his short clips, whatever, and they'll make it a lot worse, right? But
Of course.
for the average person, like the Karen 34 from Scunthorpe, who literally
Yeah.
make like 2K a month, right? For her, they just light the fire underneath, and like it's so easy to see how the mainstream media have positioned their agenda
Yeah.
and positioned their positioning. Because like if you ever speak to someone, they'll say, "Oh, like he's just an actor, he's a marketer, he's an actor." But so is the other fucking companies. They're doing the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone is technically selling something, and they're like, "Oh, but he's selling something." It's like, well, he needs to also make money. So the way we deduce it, myself and yourself, was that you take the important parts, you work better on yourself. And what's the funny part is that if you do listen to it clearly, it lights a spark in your ass, because you realize that where your current position is not where you potentially could get to, and you need
Yep.
to make some changes. And it should make you feel uncomfortable to the point whereby you want to go make better changes for yourself, for your body, for your mind, for your family, for your girlfriend, for your future girlfriend, even. Because if you're a fucking fat, lazy shit doing nothing, you're not going to be able to get girls. Not even like 7 and 8s, just girls in general. So we're going down this
100%.
spear, man, of like, it's okay to be a loser, which is just not. I literally record a podcast on a during the week being like, if your friends are fucking losers, you're a loser. You're this by extension. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, I don't know. It drives me mental, like, with that stuff. But did you feel like like when you met, like, what was the experience like? Did you feel like you learned a lot from him? Like, what was the kind of experience?
Yeah, so I'll run through the story. So basically, we went to a cigar lounge in where I was in Prague at one point, and yeah, we basically just went in. We were talking a lot about health and fitness. So obviously, he's very kind of into his training and things like that. So we spoke a lot about that. We talked talked about business as well. So a lot of the stuff that he's doing with, his Hustlers University at the time, and obviously what I was doing with my online business. So there's a few crossovers there, but a lot of the stuff was really around kind of like mindset, about like how, people are lazy nowadays, and like we need to apply ourselves, and that we need to focus, and, that we need to kind of be good role models for people, right? Like, and you do that by taking on lots of responsibility, doing as much as you can, and shit like that. And then, we kind of talked about some of the cool stuff that he was doing in regards to like his cars and his jets, and kind of that kind of materialistic stuff as well. But the main thing for me was the mindset thing, that this guy is super focused on, wanting to be successful. He works fucking hard, and, he wants the best of the people around him as well, that people tend to forget, right? He's retired his whole family, right? He provides for all the women that he's with and things like that, and looks after them, and he wants the best of people, man. And that doesn't always come across in a 15-second TikTok, right? Or things like that people kind of take out of context. And it's difficult, but I'd always urge people to kind of, either watch him in a long form content, bit of like podcast where you can really see how he articulates himself, or if you did get the chance to meet him in person, then make a decision. Don't make a decision off someone from a 15-second TikTok, is what I say.
What I always say as well is, man, like, you don't need to agree with absolutely fucking everything someone says. You know what I mean? To the end of the day, like, as in, just because you may think a certain way of training, you might do something else might work for me, but that doesn't mean I don't like you. You know what I mean? It's so diverse. It's like we need to have a divide between this and that. So like, you may not agree with how he runs an online business, but at the end of the day, who gives a fucking shit? It's how he does it. You can have your own interpretation in your own business. So that's an important kind of aspect to kind of take away for just in general, though, isn't it? That you don't need 100%. To agree with everything else. Like,
yeah, I've said this before as well. You're not going to agree with everything your parents say, your mum or your dad, right? But you still love them and you still respect them and that kind of thing. And it's the same with Andrew. There's even stuff that he says that I don't agree with, right? But do I hate him? Do I think he's out to get people? No, he just has a different viewpoint and has had a different life experience to me. Then that's why he thinks differently. And I think people should really, again, step back, don't get emotional, try and have a think about, the way you're reacting, and then kind of make a decision. But again, a lot of people, they don't do this kind of stuff, man. It's very much kind of, they're so, I don't know what it is, man, whether it's unhappiness, whether it's maybe not having the right toolkit in their kind of mental models to be like, look, maybe I should relax, maybe I should think about things, maybe I shouldn't jump to conclusions. But that's a way that I've tried to act myself, and that's improved the way I look at things personally, because I used to be very reactive to lots of things, man. And I think once you step back and you realize, you know what, there's no need to be reactive, calm, relax, look at the options, think, be a bit more critical, you kind of get to the truth and you get to the end point a lot better, if that makes sense.
It's kind of like being more stoic in those instances whereby you would have flown off the fucking rails when you're younger.
100%. Yeah, that's it, man, for sure. Like, the guy that controls his emotions is the guy that wins, man. It's true.
Yeah, and even since I kind of went further deep down his rabbit hole, like, I've even seen myself change in that aspect. Was that before, a small dude as well, would have been like reactive, snappy, defensive, but just realizing that coming from a position of like, what does the other person think? So if we're in an argument, how do you feel, whatever, and trying to understand that aspect. So yeah, man, there's a lot of things there you can take away from, I want to get into some of the details around some common misconceptions that are in kind of fitness and health and whatnot. Another one of your tweets, you're saying, you're not hungry, you're bored, you're not horny, you're late, you're lonely, you're not lazy, you're procrastinating, you're not depressed, you lack perspective.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on, what people from conventional wisdom think about things in normal day or in health and fitness that we can just change for ourselves?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I think a lot of conventional fitness stuff out there is kind of not very much context based, right? So there's one that says, you need to do tons and tons of cardio to lose fat, and that's one of the things that you need to do. But cardio does help with calorie burn, but you can never outrun a bad diet. I've done another tweet which said, you can burn 800 calories in 1 hour of running, but you can stop consuming 800 calories in 10 seconds of not eating the cake, right? Which is true, right? Like, like, if you just don't eat that cake in 10 seconds, you save yourself an hour of running that you would need to do to burn that off, right? So again, there's some smart things you can do in regards to that. And I've always been a big proponent of, resistance training, weight training, and a good diet, because that is going to help you build muscle mass, which is what most people need, and reducing body fat if obviously, the goal is to do that with the diet. So With that, you don't have to be like a bodybuilder, you don't have to be a meathead, but just adhering to those two principles of, okay, prioritize weight training and my diet, and then obviously add in some cardio as an extra kind of way to burn some fat is such a good strategy for people. And a lot of what the mainstream isn't really used to kind of hearing, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Are you focused more on more kind of structured dieting at the moment, or are you still kind of, would you be quite flexible? Do you do meal prep as well? Do you have a company?
Yeah, good question, man. So I actually have a meal prep company that delivers me food because I kind of outsource
Hmm.
a bit of my cooking now because I'm quite busy this year with work and business, and it's just more convenient for me to not cook. But I'm a big proponent of a whole foods kind of diet. So I'm not extreme on keto, vegan, carnivore, all of this kind of stuff. I'm believing in being more inclusive, but having whole foods that kind of come from the earth, right? That are rich in nutrients that come from animals. Because what did we eat, tens of thousands of years ago when, we were Neanderthals, we were cavemen, we'd eat from the earth, right? There was no processed junk, there was no artificial stuff. So I try and stick to a healthy whole foods diet, meat, good source of carbs, vegetables, and just let that be calorie controlled. It's incredible the way that that's going to make you feel when you eat like that compared to the standard Western diet. And, again, on the other extreme, when you're cutting out, meat, or you're cutting out carbs, or you're cutting out these nutrients, that's also going to have an impact on your body. You don't realize that we need all of these nutrients in our body, the vitamins that
Hmm.
come from animal fats, the vitamins that come from carbohydrates, the vitamins that come from vegetables, and things like that. And then I think what you do as a person, you do is then tailor that to you. So you might be a person that responds a little bit better to a higher fat and a higher protein diet and a lower carb. So great, you just bring that down a little bit. But to cut everything out, and to cut complete like food groups out, macronutrients out, I just don't think is healthy from my own experience and the work that I've done with clients. So trying to be as inclusive as possible, get good healthy food in your body, let it be calorie controlled, and then every once in a while, obviously being a human and enjoying yourself and enjoying that bit of unhealthy junk food, alcohol,
Hmm.
whatever that may be, because we only here once, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of my philosophy on nutrition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like from someone who's competed like bodybuilding and everything, like I can tell you like the extremes, of course, of anything are not good. Extremes
Yep.
of training too much or whatever the stress in your body. But I thought it was quite interesting. I went on like a carnivore diet years ago because I think I just was like, fuck it, I just want to try it, whatever. And I realized so quickly that like I need a diverse food profile. Like I
Yep.
just need it. I need a mix of carbs. I need a mix of different types of carbs. I need to understand my body just needs it. I remember just feeling like a rock in my stomach. And I spoke to Dan Go on my podcast about this, was being like, it was so evident that the feedback loop for my body was that this is just not good for me. Not saying it's not good for someone else, but for
Yep.
me, it's just not good. So of course there's been great feedback from Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson. They were like they had a lot of autoimmune issues and it worked for them. But I feel like some of those extreme diets are for extreme cases. They're not for
Exactly,
the
man.
general population. So even though I'm like bodybuilding now and I'm putting on a lot of size, I'm eating a lot of calories, I still even think that in moderation. I actually have a coach because I can't do it myself. I need a
Yeah.
coach to help me through the diet side of things because at
Yeah.
4,200 calories a day, you need to have someone to coach you through that process.
Of
I don't know how you
course.
feel about that though, in terms of like extreme diets.
Yeah, it's a really good question, man. And again, this is where context comes into play. Like I'm speaking to
Mhm.
people, general population, normal people that kind of don't have any illnesses, diseases. A whole foods healthy diet is going to be better for you than a standard Western junk food diet, right? Of
Mhm.
course, but there are people that have medical conditions where keto can be really good, or some people may have allergies, they have intolerances to things like dairy, meat. So, like maybe in that situation, cutting it out is okay. But from a general point of view, let's say you're a normal person with kind of no real illnesses, sicknesses, no real problems. Maybe you're just overweight and you're unhealthy. You don't need to do anything extreme. What you need to do is just have a better food plan than you have now. And really anything is
Mhm.
better than what you're eating if you're eating a kind of standard junk Western diet. So stick to whole foods, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Keep it high protein, kind of trying to control the calories in that. Now, if you do that, you're going to be getting pretty good shape, right? Like this is a very
Mhm.
simple framework, right? I'm speaking generally here, but if you do that, most people are going to get pretty healthy in that regard.
It's funny because when you talk about like nutrition or training on a podcast, you can't go super deep without a specific profile in mind.
Of
But it kind of
course.
goes back to like at the end of the day, the fucking basics, like the meat and potatoes of well, pun on the word meat and potatoes, but the basics of training and nutrition for me, for you, and for the basic person actually get you fucking pretty far because chances are it's more than what you're doing right now. Um,
100%. And I
you
speak like
know,
this because 85% of the US or something crazy is like obese, right? So trying to speak
mhm,
to the people that are really unhealthy and say, how do I get healthier, which is most people? Well, kind of follow those guidelines that I've mentioned there, right? If you're maybe cutting down for a bodybuilding show, you're going to need to be more nuanced. You're going to be you need to be more specific. And, I don't really speak to kind of that audience, right?
of
Anymore
course.
anyway. So, of course, there is nuance, but I'm speaking broadly to people, eat more healthy whole foods, calorie controlled, high protein, and you should start to feel a lot better and lose weight and feel healthier.
On a side note of that, how did you find writing your content around it? Because I know a lot of personal trainers kind of struggle with the kind of like the identity, the fact that they're talking in basic terms a lot of the times, and you
Yeah,
write really well, like you're a very good writer. But did you kind of
thanks,
struggle at
man.
times, sometimes making it so simple sometimes for people because you know so much to a degree?
Yeah, it's a really good question, man. So I remember when I started coaching, I started talking to people about reverse diets, periodization, and all this kind of
Mm.
stuff, and it completely turned these guys off because they were just like, "Hey, man, I just want to like lose weight and get in shape, right?"
God, I beat the.
and yeah, for Ibiza, right? And he's like, "What's this mean? Like periodization, reverse dieting, like low GI? Like I don't understand, man. Like what is all this? It's like you're speaking in terrible terms, right? And the people that are the best coaches, I'd say, and like the best teachers, the best marketers, they always speak in terms that people understand. So I guess from
Mhm.
experience and working with hundreds of clients, I've learned that the simpler the better, and the easier it is for them to understand, the better it is going to be for them to execute. So I guess it's just come from a lot of experience, man, and breaking things down really into those first principles, and things for people to understand.
Mhm. How did you use that in terms of your content itself? Did you kind of like test it, or have you be just kind of like building upon what you know over the course of time?
Yeah, really good question. I guess a lot of it has come from just experience and kind of reps of training clients and putting content out there to kind of see what works, because the market will always decide what's good or not, right? And I say
Mhm.
this in a way of like the dating market, that will decide, the business market will decide, and like you could say the Twitter market of content will decide, right? If I'm putting content
Mhm.
out, it's getting shit engagement. It could be the algorithm, or maybe my content is just shit and people don't like it, right? So I always take ownership of that, and I'm like, okay, that's not working. Maybe how can I change that to improve it? And if I improve it, it gets better engagement. Okay, cool. That's kind of what my audience wants. So you are tailoring it to kind of what people want, and you kind of have to put a lot of stuff out there and put in a lot of reps to kind of get that feedback and make the changes. But as long as you're willing to do that, you will find a rhythm and find a way to kind of put out content that people enjoy and get good engagement and things.
Definitely, man. Definitely, definitely. I want to move on to some hot topics that we always see these days, especially on Twitter, is around
Nice.
fucking testosterone, man.
Sure.
Everyone's talking about testosterone these days, which is I feel like it's low test dudes half time talking about it. But anyway, so I put up just a small poll recently, just like a couple of hours
Sure.
ago, and I always get fucking hilarious comments. This dude, this is actually great. This is probably the best comment I've got, right? Given the huge genetic variation, does TRT give relatively low test men unfair access to sex and status?
That's a great question, man. Fucking hell, that's a great question. Again, so TRT and the extra supplementation is going to help you to a degree, and it's definitely going to boost your results. But you're still going to have to go to the gym and train a
Mhm,
little bit to build muscle. So it's going to make a massive advantage. But what I would say is like it's better that these guys are high T and on high testosterone than they are to be low T, insecure, and like
mhm,
moody. Because these low T people are the kind of the type of people that are gonna be act out. They're gonna not be emotionally stable and things like that. And we know that men that have higher levels of testosterone, they have less brain fog, right? They have more focus, they have better clarity of thought, they can make better decisions alongside kind of having greater sex drive and things like that. So if more men were high testosterone, we'd actually have a healthier and kind of more rational environment, in my opinion. And that's kind of why my testosterone tweet that blew up the other week was quite funny, because I said men that have low testosterone tend to have high wokeness. It's science, right? And it went viral. And oh my God, man, I got absolutely attacked by people. And
didn't you get
I
like
loved
banned
it.
in Germany?
Yeah, people were reporting my tweet, which is a low test bit behavior as well. So I was
Oh
like, for
man.
God's sake, man. But no, I think it's a healthy thing for men to have good levels of testosterone, and that's not to mean you have to be a bodybuilder and you need to be macho and you need to be all this kind of stuff, right? It's from a general health point of view to have good focus, to have not any brain fog. And brain fog's the biggest symptom of low testosterone, man. So not being able to think clearly, right? Whether that's in your relationships, at work. And I work with entrepreneurs and executives that are making big decisions every single day. So if your brain's not right to focus, you're going to be impacting your business and the people you that work for you and things. So I think having optimal tests is important for your mind frame more than anything, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, man. Do you think the more basic life of just sitting at a fucking desk and working on your computer or working in an office and being in a job eating kind of shit drives your test really low? Like, is that a knock-on effect that we're having like over the last couple of centuries?
Yeah, 100%, man. I think sedentary lifestyle doesn't help. The easy access to pornography doesn't help.
Hmm.
The poor diet doesn't help. The lack of exercise doesn't help. All of these factors are having a big impact. The lack of sunlight, all of these things, man, are tough for people in the modern environment, and that's why you really kind of have to this is another tweet that I put out, and I said a good mental model is to do the opposite of what 99% of people are doing, and it's kind of true, right? If you see people sat at the
100%, man.
desk eating shit, right, junk food, drinking tons of alcohol, watching loads of porn, it's kind of like, well, if I do the opposite, that's probably going to make me pretty good, man. I'm going to be more successful doing that, right? And again, it's I feel bad sometimes hating on the masses, but a lot of the masses, man, they're doing damage to themselves and their health, and the people around them, future generations, with this kind of abuse. So if you can just step out and be like, again, step back, look, and think, what can I do differently, and things like that, you're probably going to find that you're going to find a better way to be successful, if that makes sense.
100%, man. An aspect kind of similar to this that I was following was when I started recording people with people like yourself, other guys maybe a good bit older than us, maybe like 30, 40, 50, that were super successful. I used to think in my head, like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And
Yeah.
what is it that I'm doing that they're not doing? So, social media notifications gone.
Off. Yeah.
Alcohol gone for the last 6 months. No,
Nice.
I don't necessarily mean to get rid of it forever, but I wanted to do an experiment because I
Yeah.
was kind of thinking like these guys who are fucking mega net worth. Of
Yeah.
course, they could probably drink whatever, but for the most part, they are able to unlock a part of their brain or ability or concentration that the masses can't do. So I tried to like align myself to those individuals. I'm nowhere near it now, whatever, but I just mean that that's a barometer to move towards it. But I feel like that the more like fucking wokeness this shit's going on is the fact that it's more acceptable to be basic. And you
Yeah.
don't need to be this fucking killer entrepreneur as we discussed, but it's kind of like you kind of owe it to yourself to be fucking pretty decent though, no? And I always kind of
What
thought that too, even speaking with yourself, it's like I want to be better than I am right now.
100%, man. And again, this all comes down to like apply it to your own situation, right? You could be in a normal job, in a normal relationship. It's like, well, how do I get better in that field, right? How do I become a better boyfriend? How do I become, better manager in my job? How can I have a better quality of life generally? This doesn't mean you need to conquer the world and be a massive entrepreneur and do this crazy stuff and live like, some of these people that you see. But it's about just getting a little bit better, having a better quality of life, being healthier, being happier, man. A lot of people, they're not happy with the way that their life is going. And I can tell you, with a few changes, right, to your health, to your mindset, to your perspective, consistently, you'll have a much better life, man. And you don't need to be multimillionaire to have that. You can have that through better habits, better mindset, better focus, and all of those kinds of things.
Hmm. What do you think was the catalyst for you to kind of change your mindset? Was it a bit of confidence you got because of an event or something you started online? Like, what do you think changed it originally for you?
Hmm. It was a good question, man. I think there came a point where I was, when I was younger, I very much felt that I was the victim, right? So I was very much had this victim mindset when I kind of didn't make it as a professional footballer. I kind of thought, oh no, the managers are out to get me, right? And
Mm,
a girl would reject me, right? And I'd be like, oh, that girl's a bitch, man. Like, why is she picking on me, or why she rejected me, right? And it would happen in other scenarios too, and I would think, after a while, I kind of just stepped back and I thought, you know what, man, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me that needs to look at himself and be like, okay, if I took some more responsibility for my actions and the things that I've done, and looked at myself in the mirror, I might be able to improve things. And it's kind of weird. Like, there's another tweet that I've put out that is really powerful. It's like, my life got substantially better when I realized nobody cares about my problems, right? And it's like this full it's true, right? Like, when you realize nobody cares and you have full ownership of your problems, no one else is to blame, your life just skyrockets, man, because everything that you need to get done, you get done. You realize your health is on you, your income is on you, your intimate relationships are on you, right? And it's crazy. Once you have that responsibility, it becomes being addicting, because you're like, shit, I've got all this responsibility, I need to do all this stuff. but I'm seeing progress, man. Let's keep doing it. I want more responsibility. I want more of this, more of that. And that was the real shift from me, from kind of shifting from that victim kind of mindset that I'd kind of grown up with, through kind of maybe bad mental models and things, to pure ownership of everything that happens to me. And that has really kind of skyrocketed where I've kind of gone, I'd say mentally, right? And I think mentally, if you're in that spot, you can then progress through life. So yeah.
Definitely, man. That's very interesting because you probably, same with myself, grew up with a set of beliefs that you can
Yeah.
only make so much money or do something, whatever. So it's being able to detach from those original beliefs, which takes a lot of time, you know?
100%. It doesn't happen overnight either, man. That's the thing. It takes you a while to break and understand the patterns of where you kind of would be like, oh shit, like I'm the victim here, and you kind of stop yourself like, oh, come on, we're not doing that anymore. You're not the
Yeah,
victim. Take responsibility, and
yeah,
it takes time. So it's definitely not an overnight process, but the more you can drill it into yourself, the quicker you're going to get there, for sure, I think. And again, I say this, I don't like to speak like this, that I'm the authority, right? There's still times where
of
I
course.
catch myself being like the victim, and I'm like, shit, like, come on, Oliver, sort yourself out, man. Like, and it's a long and never ending journey. But again, the more you can drill it into your head and hold that value, the easier it's going to get, for sure.
Yeah, it's knowing the fact that you're always gonna be working on it. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
never there. Like it's not about arriving. And that's what sometimes is kind of difficult about the income part. Because if you're building a business and you're like, fuck it, I'm only making 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month, I'm
Yeah.
definitely not there. But it's kind of like when it's yourself, you know that, oh, it's a bit more of a journey. So for younger people, it's kind of hard sometimes to be like, go off and build this or go off and do that because they're not seeing that instant return at the moment, which is
Yeah.
part of the problem, though. It's part of the problem at the same time,
100%, man. I read a really good book, and it's one of my favorite books, called The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. And there's a passage in the book where he goes, like the theme of it is like the work is never over. It's like, you wish that like your wife wouldn't complain anymore. That's not realistic. You wish the work will be over. That's not realistic. Like, as long as you're alive, you have to keep tussling and wrestling with the present moment. And he says it in a very woo-woo spiritual way, right? But the meta message from that is basically like, it's never over. Like, you're always working towards something. You're always having to deal with problems, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in business, whether it's going to the gym, right? You don't just go to the gym, get healthy and stay like that. It's continuous work to continue to be like that. And, I think that's a really good kind of mindset to have, is there is no end destination. It's always the journey. There's always more challenges. There's always more obstacles. And you kind of have to fall in love with kind of that process. And that's been a really good mindset for me, as I've kind of hit certain milestones that I've been proud of. Like, hey, man, like, we're not there yet, man. Like, keep going. This is an onward thing. And, it's quite motivating for me, I think, looking at it like that. For sure. Yeah.
Definitely, man. It's the Christian Guzman is like proud but never satisfied. So
Satisfied.
like,
yeah. That's a
yeah,
great way to
there's all
simplify it. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
always, and it's just one sentence. Have you read or listened to Unfinished by David Goggins yet?
I haven't, man. I read his
No,
first book, Can't Hurt Me. Listen to that on audio. But
no,
now,
I did
what's
the
his new
exact
book
same.
like?
Yeah,
Good.
it's the second one's really good. It's a bit more detailed, I guess, because he couldn't go
Okay.
into so much detail in the first one because nobody knew him. But one of the biggest takeaways that I love from it is the fact that you probably know this too. People who train for a marathon or train for, let's say, a bodybuilding competition, they'll get to the end and then, like, oh, it's over. Thank fuck, it's over. I'm going to go back
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
fat shit, binge eating, give me the Domino's pizza. But it's at that point whereby you're literally, by definition, never finished. You're working towards the next thing. It's not about going out and doing it again tomorrow, but it's just about working towards the next thing. So I think that's like one of the biggest overarching themes of it, is which is just fucking sick because, for him, super successful guy, multi-millionaire at this stage, he felt super soft. The words he used is soft because, he was this guy that did the 240 in Moab. I don't know how much you know about ultramarathon running, but I actually I love the aspect of it. And, he was this bad cunt that was doing this shit. And then he became soft in his own head, and had to get back out, get the shoes back out and put himself back through it. And not for other people, largely for himself, because he felt like he literally was soft in his head. So even when you reach these feats of 10,000 a month or 100,000 fucking whatever, you are still at the start line of another
Yeah.
race in
It's always the
some regard.
beginning. That's my mindset. Is I have this saying, it's always the beginning, right? Like everything. And it's a quite
Day one.
powerful kind of day one, right? It's a powerful shift to have, because, you can have some bad things happen. You can, like, lose somebody, break up with a girlfriend. It's always the beginning. This is this is the mindset I always have. Like, when I feel down or something, no, it doesn't go your way. Hey, it's always the beginning, man. It's day one. It's start of something new. You always have to have that optimism that better is ahead. And this is the beginning. You kind of put the past, behind you, and you focus on the future. And I think that's a really positive way to look at things, and something that served me quite well. It's always the beginning, man. It's always the beginning.
And it doesn't make it easy as well. It's just like part of the fucking framework, you know.
Of course.
Um, I wanted to ask you about confidence because you're
Yep.
5'7". I'm
5'7",
five
yep.
seven on I'm 5'7" on a good day, so I'm saying about I was about 5'6" and a half ish. So
Short kings, mate. Short kings.
absolutely, man. So for me, like the way I overcame being like a small dude, because I play rugby too, right? And all the guys are like
Yeah.
100 kg. I just said let's get as massive as fuck as possible. And then for me in my early 20s, like the idols were like, you know, your Joey D, your Rob Lipsett,
Yeah.
that style physique. So it was just like to get to my definition of that. So I think by doing that, I got rid of all like confidence issues. I don't know how you felt like when you were trying to, I don't know, be more confident as a small dude.
It's a really good question, man. I actually did a YouTube video kind of outlining this with like 10 steps, but to kind of just bring it kind of full circle, it's like the stuff that any kind of man that is successful is doing is what will make you feel good about being short. And this is just having high standards. So get yourself in shape, right? Work on, improving your income, dress well, have a good haircut, be approachable, socially be good, be charismatic, basically hold yourself to a high standard as a person. And, I always say, like, look at Tom Cruise, man. Do you think he struggles with confidence? Do you think he struggles with women? Of course he doesn't, man, because he's in shape, he's good looking, he looks after himself, he's successful in his field, financially he's successful, right? He's got a lot going for him. And it's kind of like, well, as a short guy, try and be Tom Cruise, man. Well, Mark Wahlberg, they're all 5'7". Jeff Bezos, he's 5'7", right? All of these guys, man, that are super successful, they're all 5'7", but nobody looks at them and says, oh, look, they're 5'7". A girl's not at the bar going, oh, Mark Wahlberg's only 5'7", isn't he? Oh my God. I definitely don't want to date Mark Wahlberg, successful multimillionaire in shape, that was a poster boy for Calvin Klein. I don't want to date him because he's 5'7", right? So what I say to people is, doesn't mean you have to be Mark Wahlberg, but again, it's about that. Can you improve those aspects of your life whereby your height doesn't matter, right? Can you go into a party and be really charismatic and really fun and really care about people in your interaction, and they go, shit, man, like that guy I met tonight, he was so cool. He was like, he seemed like he really cared. There was a really good connection with him. Seemed like he's got himself, pretty successful. Like, wow, like he's interested. They're not walking away going, oh, he was 5'7". Like nobody thinks of it like that, right? So there are so many things, and this is a great thing about especially being a man, is you can build everything that you want. You can build the skills, you can build your outlook, you can build your body, and like Andrew Tate says, you can build this character that you want to be. And it's true, right? Like you can build yourself into anything. So don't worry about your height, man. Worry about focusing on all of these great things that you can kind of build yourself into, and your height won't be an issue for you anymore. It is kind of my mindset behind it.
Yeah, man, there was one of the emergency meetings that Andrew Tate did with man Sterling Cooper, I think it was, where they were discussing how like there was some dude who basically like had it all, like really good looking dude, whatever, but had no like game. But like
Yeah.
he could have easily just used like it doesn't matter about the actual height, it just matters about what you do with it. He was like 6'6"
Exactly.
or something, like really good looking, like Swedish dude or whatever. And that dude like literally did fuck all with his ability. And as a result, completely insecure or whatever. And some of his closer friends are smaller dudes and are able to just use what they have. And it's funny because like these are the non-controllables. And for us, maybe it's height. For other people, it could be anything, man. It could be even intellect. Like you just may struggle. For instance, like I'm dyslexic. So for me, like I'm not like properly like really dyslexic, but I do find it more difficult than let's say you to write. So as a result, I use tools that cost me $100 a year that helps me write, and it makes everything better. And I still write every fucking day. So it's not like I can't do it. It's just a bit more of a struggle, let's say. And for instance, we both speak really well. Some people might be shy speaking and they may not want to. So it's about just playing with the cards you're dealt, and realizing what's within your control.
100%, man. And you made a good point there about like, speaking and things like your strengths. Like double down on your strengths as well, man. Like if you know that, you're a short guy, but you're really funny and charismatic, double down on that shit, man. Be the funniest guy in the room, right? Or, you're jacked and you go to the gym. Like be the most jacked guy out of like your friends group or something, right? Like, you have strengths, you have a lot of positive attributes that you can really like hone in on and make you kind of stand out or feel successful, feel confident. There's tons of things you can do, but double down on your strengths, man, is a big bit of advice that I've got before and served me well.
Especially with girls as well, man. Like my girlfriend's like fucking 5'8" or like 5'9". Bear in mind, she's still growing. Bear in mind this stage. I'm like, it's grand. But people
Yeah.
think that they can't shoot for girls as a result, or like, you might get the one bitch on Tinder that's like, don't date dudes that's like under 6 foot, but it's like,
Yeah.
don't date fucking girls that are over 220 pounds. Like, I mean, it's the same. It's the same shit. You know what I mean? It's just a barometer put in, but I think guys like feel as a result that they can't approach girls or whatever, so they look at it as a detrimental factor.
100%. And look, like the reality is there is going to be a portion of girls that won't date you because you're 5'7". But guess what? There's also going to be another portion of girls that really like guys that are 5'7". And that's the market you want to speak to, right? Like, again, it's all kind of like,
It's like
why
a
are you
business.
chasing? It's a business, right? Like, why are you chasing after the customers that don't want you? Surely you want to
Yeah,
serve the
man.
customers that do want you. It's simple, right? So again, it's kind of hard to like, again, because it's a very, like, for a lot of people, and I've been there before, it's a very sensitive topic and it hurts your ego sometimes, but sometimes you have to remove that feeling out of it and just be like, hey, actually, if you look logically, there's still going to be a lot of girls that will be interested in me regardless of my height. And again, if I work on a lot of these things, that's going to put me into the higher bracket whereby more girls are going to be interested because of these other attributes that are not related to my height and things like that. So yeah.
Man, it's funny. The way we're kind of distinguishing between like factors you can fix and factors you can't fix.
Yeah.
I remember like you fucking a good head of hair on you, right? You've like a really good hairline. When I was
Thanks, man.
younger, I fucking was like hit with the bald reaper, if you will. And I was losing my hair. Like, I like 21, like even like my dad or my brother, like they're balding, they're a good bit older than me. Obviously my dad's older than me, my brother's older than me. So I was like, fuck, like I'm going to Turkey. I'm getting my head done, I'm going to Turkey. But you can't if you're young, you know that, yeah. If you get it done really young, it can come back to you. So then I went down like the more plates, more dates route. Like I went down the finasteride route, like turned my head completely around, man, like completely around. And what's funny is like that was a traditional thing that you couldn't change. Bear in mind, the video I recorded on the 1 year transformation that I have has like 250,000 views. Like,
Whoa.
guys are really worried about this stuff, and they really, really are taking conscious work on this. And that's something that's quite interesting because now, under a doctor or whatever, you can get prescribed stuff like finasteride, and if it works with you, that's great. It might not work for everyone, and you can fix it. So that's unbelievably powerful. So for a couple of $100 or not even that, you can now fix the things that you used to be most insecure about, which is wild.
What is wild, man? Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you kind of sharing that my hairline's good, but it's not actually that good. I actually style mine forward here because I've got a bit of a receding hairline. So I think I'll be maybe
turn your head, turn your head.
This side here, man. Hopefully,
But
these
what
guys can
age
see
are
on
you?
the camera. I'm 28, so I'm nearly 30. So,
man,
but you can
perfect,
see it's a
man.
little bit thin, man. And I'll be on an economy flight to Istanbul, I think, soon. But it's
Man.
like it's not horrendous, But again, like it's one of those things where like you can change it as well, but you can also accept it, man. You can also be like, hey, look, I'm balding, man. You can shave your head bald, and you come jacked and look like The Rock, right? There are several routes that you can take if you're insecure about things, or you've not been dealt the right hand. And again, it goes back to just playing to your strengths, what you're good at, and controlling the controllables, which now you have more controllables that you can control because you can go and get your hair done, and you can get your teeth done. So you can do all these kind of things. But even if you don't, there's other parts of your life that you can really excel in that will kind of give you the confidence that you need. 100%.
It's not fucking cosmetic 100%. You know what I mean? It's
100%.
a combination of everything.
Yeah.
So you work with a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of guys that are like properly hard at it. Is there anything you kind of would recommend for people to maintain their energy levels throughout the day? So for instance, like I work really fucking late at night, really late into the night. How do you advise like entrepreneurs to structure their day so that their energy is pretty consistent and things are flowing pretty well for them?
Really good question, man. This is a big one. So I think the first thing is to try and work out first thing in the morning. So as an entrepreneur, if you're running a big company or even a small team, like as your day goes on, there's going to be more stress. There's more fires to put out. You might have to be speaking to lawyers, employees to manage, people to sack, right? Whatever it may be, there's things that you need to do, right? Whether you like them or not, you've got to do them. So, if you can hit your workout as soon as you wake up, that's probably the most convenient time for you to do it because that's your time before you kind of get into the office, before you're hit with emails, calls, meetings, that kind of thing. There's also research to show that working out in the morning increases something called BDNF, which is brain-derived nootropic something. I forgot a factor or something like that. Basically, in layman's terms, what that means is your brain will operate at a higher standard throughout the course of the day if you've done intense exercise in the morning. So they've done some research on this, and they've actually found that there was kind of like two groups: people that did exercise in the morning and people that didn't. Now, the people that did exercise in the morning, they made better decisions, they had better clarity of thought, they had more energy throughout the course of the day from getting their heart rate up to something like 180 beats per minute in the morning. So if you can do a hard workout in the morning, it actually sets the tone for the rest of the day to help your brain kind of work better. Also, from a convenience point of view, you got it done. You don't need to go get ready, shower, go back into work, whatever that may be. You don't have to do it late at night. And one of the things that, you know, I've found personally and clients have found is when you're training at 9-10 o'clock at night, that can cause you to impact sleep quality because you're still buzzing off the endorphins that are there. So as an entrepreneur, try and work out in the morning for those benefits that I spoke about. From a nutrition point of view, try and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? Because your body is under a high amount of stress from your general job, right? And we know that if you fast in the morning, what that can do is sometimes cause your body to have more stress, which kind of leads to less energy later in the day. So if you can have like a solid breakfast, like a high protein breakfast, a good, again, high protein lunch, and then a dinner like that structured throughout your day is going to give you a consistent hit of energy throughout the course of the day. The protein is going to keep you full, and if you can obviously have some healthy carbs and fats in there, that's going to help with focus and energy as well. So that's one thing. The third thing I would say, so we've gone through training, nutrition. Third thing is hydration. So just ensure that you're drinking 3 to 4 liters of water per day. I've got a bottle of water here at my desk, and I recommend all my clients do that as well, because the more water you drink, the more focused you're going to be. Your muscles are going to be fuller, and you're going to feel better when you move. So definitely have water. I'd say the final thing, man, is sleep, right? So try and clock off work as early as possible. I know it's not going to be realistic as an entrepreneur. Some nights you're going to be working till midnight, but if you can clock off, if you are working late, blue light blockers, set your Mac to night shift. Just try and get into a good sleep habit, because if you get 8 hours of sleep, that's one of the best bits of energy that's going to give you the next day is, feeling recharged, feeling like you've got enough deep and REM sleep to allow you to have that energy each day. So those would kind of be my tips, if that all makes sense.
Interesting, man. The sleep is like a funny one, because like the more you analyze it, the more you realize how fucked your sleep can be.
Yeah.
Like getting a Fitbit, man, was for me like it was a rude awakening, because I could see
Yep.
like how far I was away from REM, how far I was away from deep sleep. Because you see a benchmark. I don't know, are you familiar with the app? But they give you an average benchmark of what you should be, and like Jesus Christ, man, I'm exactly 50% of what I should be.
Really, yeah.
And like, I'll tell you a fucking funny story. So my sleep is like 6 hours, maybe 5.5, 6 hours. But it's weird though. It's like a time is awake during that period is like an hour and a half, right? But then I sleep. I'm in bed for like 7 hours. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Anyway, on Tuesday or like Monday, my coach was like, "You need to sort out your fucking sleep." So I was like, "I might get melatonin," because I used it before, but I didn't know about it. So I was like, "Oh look, online it says start at 1 milligram. Maybe I took 5 milligrams and it fucked me last time." So I went down to the pharmacy, and they were like, "Oh, we only sell 3," and I was like, "Oh look, whatever. Like 3's grand. It's a natural supplement, whatever." I took 3, man, and I was literally tripping so badly. I felt like I was in Ibiza in bed.
Shit.
I had never tripped so badly in my entire life. I was in bed like proper, like horrific dreams. The next day, I was pretty much asleep for 2 days as a result. Couldn't do anything. Tuesday, Wednesday, I was fucked, man. Only yesterday I started coming back to normal. So like all those sleep aids and stuff, I don't know. I wouldn't rate them, to be honest. Like I think like if you can try fix your sleep yourself, it's so powerful. I even regret doing it now at this stage,
Crazy, man. Yeah, that's not nice to have a experience like that. I know that melatonin can be one of those things that it either works really well, or sometimes for like yourself there, it just didn't work well at all, and people have had some bad experiences. So again, I think supplements the same with your body, right? And training and muscle gain. Supplements should be the last thing on your list. You should try and optimize, your training and nutrition first before you do any supplements for that side of things. Same with your sleep. You should be optimizing your routine, sleep hygiene, all of those things that I've kind of mentioned regarding the blue light blockers, turning your no caffeine, night shift, and things like that. But I'd say maybe if you're doing all that and you're still struggling, one of the supplements that I found to be really useful is magnesium biglycinate. So this has helped me kind of sleep deeper, and Also, it's one of the most digestible forms of magnesium. And I think most kind of Americans or most people, you could say, in the Western world are deficient in magnesium, because when we drink coffee, when we're under high amounts of stress, magnesium gets depleted from our body. So if we can actually top up with a bit of magnesium, that can be really good and really healthy. So, yeah, I kind of recommend that. But, when we're looking at sleep overall, try and get that routine dialed in, like you mentioned. Try and get the basics done, and that should really get the results if you do it consistently.
That's interesting, man. I'll check out the magnesium, because I remember there was Huberman spoke about magnesium and a few other components too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, of course, it's like you shouldn't go supplement first. It's kind of like the
yeah,
dude who
yeah,
goes into the fucking gym for the first day and then tries to get like, some sort of pre-workout before he actually goes to the gym. Like,
yeah.
you obviously have seen that, like, play out 1,000 times. Like, what supplements would you think are worthwhile and what are complete trash?
Yeah, this is a good one and a popular question. So I think one of the first ones is for the ones that work well. I'd say one of the staples I have is creatine. That's great. So creatine is
Mhm.
one of the most researched. It's going to give you a good bit of like anti-fatigue, you could say, in the gym. So you're going to get more reps out. You're not going to be as fatigued. Also, it's going to allow you to focus better. There's a lot of cognitive benefits to creatine too, and it's super safe. So I'd definitely say that. You could say whey protein. Like, whey protein is not really a supplement, it's more of a food substitute, but for the case of this,
Mhm.
I'll kind of include it. I think for entrepreneurs or people that are so busy, if you want to get 50 grams of protein, just get 2 scoops of whey, right? Like, it's super simple to get that in on a busy day, and it's
Mhm.
convenient. And it's also one of the most bioavailable forms of protein, so your body's going to break this down and actually utilize it a lot more, whey protein. So that's great. Those would be kind of like my 2 staples. I'd say maybe the third one would be like an omega-3 or a multivitamin, just to ensure that if you're not getting the right vitamins through your diet and not enough fish, then those 2 will be good. Talking about ones that are a bit of waste of money, I think mass gainers are a bit of a waste of money. Just eat more food, man. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of a lot easier to just eat more food and get that kind of calories that you need from food. Another one would be kind of like BCAAs. So BCAAs, they have benefit, especially for kind of like athletes and people that don't get enough protein. But if your diet is pretty high in protein, you're going to get the amino acids you need through meats and things like that, which is fine. So you don't really need BCAAs. And the third one would be like fat burners, man, especially the legal ones, because like you get people eating complete shit and then eating and consuming these fat burning pills, and it's
Bullshit,
kind of
man.
like yeah, it's bullshit. And
Bullshit,
it's kind
man.
of like, well, unless the fat burners are illegal and you're consuming Tren or Winnie or all that other shit that's out there, right? That stuff's illegal for the reason because it works and it'll burn through a bad diet. But if you're taking this legal stuff with like green tea extract in, like, it's not really going to have that much of a difference, man, at all.
Yeah, like some shit that like Kim Kardashian is like
Yeah,
fucking
trying to sell. Yeah, exactly.
you know
Some
what I mean?
fucking fat loss tea or some bullshit. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Do you fuck with much pre-workouts if you train in the morning?
So I'm more of a coffee man myself, man. I love coffee. Indonesian coffee, of course, the best coffee in the
Of
world.
course.
So
Luwak.
the walk, yeah, exactly. So I do love a coffee. I do actually really like the green like Monster Ultras as well. So in the summer when it's warm, I love a cold like Monster Ultra before a training session, man. Those are my 2 go-tos. I find that pre-workouts, I'm a bit of an idiot. I kind of just consume too much, and like, I
Mhm.
get the shakes if I do the pre-workouts, and some of the ingredients and the stimulants give me like either really like fast heartbeat or even like the shakes and the tingles. And I don't know, man. I like that when I was like 17, 18, but as I've got a bit older, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be getting off my nut before a chest workout, man. Like, I'm not going to a rave, right? I'm not going to DC 10,
Yeah.
so
That's funny, man.
yeah,
That's funny. Yeah, like I do notice that the only reason why I would use it is because there's creatine in it. So it
yeah,
kind of like it
that
bundles up, and
helps.
it's so expensive to get creatine in Asia, by the way. It's like
Oh,
I don't know
really?
why. It's
Oh,
fucking oh
shit.
man,
That's
supplements are so
crazy.
expensive here. I get like a 2.5 kg like box or what the fuck it is of Op Nutrition, which is the cheapest here, which is a
Oh,
hundred
wow.
dollars.
Okay.
So that's the cheapest. That's in Asia.
Ah,
Because
wow. Crazy.
everything is like, US
Imported, is it?
product or
Yeah, yeah.
well, everything's imported, yeah. So whether you're in Bali or whether you're in Singapore, man, you're gonna get like fucked really hard on costs. On just
Jeez.
foreign goods, you know what I mean? Like you know
Foreign
yourself, like
goods, yeah.
if you buy things that are local, it's cheap.
Yeah.
But if you buy things that are foreign, like very, very expensive. So I think it's like the likes of My Protein and all that
Yeah,
stuff is
yeah.
not here. You know what I mean? It's just not here. It's actually funny. There's a couple of gyms in Bali that sell My Protein powder, they would
Okay.
sell it for, honest to God, £150, 150
Fuck.
for a bag of protein,
That's
because it's
crazy.
people are buying it, man. People are fucking buying it.
Wow.
That's the funny thing,
Mad.
you know.
They need it. They need it. Yeah.
Exactly. One of the final layers I want to get into is around kind of training. So,
Yep.
of course, like there's people are different, and for entrepreneurs and for busy people, it's different. But how would you compare like training volume of 3 and 4 days versus like 5 and 6 days? Like, what would you kind of advise for someone who's doing 60, 70 hour work weeks?
Yeah, really good question. So is it kind of the question regarding like how many days should they be doing or how much volume in each session or both?
Mainly probably the days, because they spend most of their days fucking working anyway. So it's
Yeah.
not like they're in a recovery state, you know?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. And again, this is going to be specific to the person, but I usually say to people like, if you can do less workouts but then make them more effective, then that's better, right? So from a time perspective, if you're an entrepreneur that you're doing 70, 80-hour weeks and you want to train 6, 7 days a week, it's probably not going to be realistic. You're gonna have to go to the gym, get changed, hit your workout, go back, shower, get ready, then go and work. It kind of can throw you off your day if you're doing that too often. Whereas, if you're training 3 days a week, 4 days a week, you've got 3 or 4 rest days there where you can focus solely on work, and you can obviously use your weekends to train. So I would say having effective workouts that are like, 3, 4 days a week, working your muscle groups 2 times a week, whether that's, upper body, lower body twice a week, or maybe doing a full body, 3 or 4 times a week. That can work well if you recover well. So I would probably say trying to do that, 3, 4 workouts a week, try and train your muscles twice a week, progressively overload, get stronger on those main compound movements is really going to be key. And yeah, throwing in some isolation work at the end, right? With kind of some higher rep stuff, 10 to 15 reps on that. You don't need to go too crazy for those single joint movements. You don't want to get injured. It's just about getting that additional volume in. But yeah, that's kind of how I would approach it, and something that's worked really well for kind of the clients I work with.
hmm Do you focus a lot on kind of like tension for exercises? Like, some of your clients may not be that advanced, but would be that something you'd
Yeah.
emphasize if you're doing 3 days a week or 4 days a week?
Definitely. So one of the things we focus on is tempo of executing exercises. So we kind of use the 3-0-1 tempo, which is very simple. So 3 seconds when kind of, you could say the muscle is lengthening, and then a 0 second pause, and then a 1 second on the, when the muscle is shortening on the explosive part of the movement. So for example, if you're doing a bench press, right, you're coming down, you want to be nice and slow, 1, 2, 3, 0 second pause when it gets to your chest, 1 second explosive back up. Stuff like that will really help you control the movement and feel it, get the right form, and like you said, get more time and attention, and that's going to lead to the muscle breakdown, more muscle being kind of built, recruited, and things like that.
hmm I've noticed that to be like the biggest change this year in my training, especially with a coach, because
Yeah,
when you're younger, you're trying to go up and up and up. So if it's your bench press or whatever, so you
yeah,
don't realize how much of your form is getting fucked, whether that's doing
yeah.
5 days a week or 6 days a week. So I kind of felt like that. I was at like a limit. On now, I've kind of dropped the ego, gone back 20%, and it's made a huge
Nice.
difference. I don't know how you think about that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things there is form, right? Like your form needs to
hmm
kind of be spot on before you, lift any heavy weights. It's kind of funny. I've started kickboxing recently. I'm about 2 sessions in, and I'm trying to throw these heavy, strong kicks, right? And my coach says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Would you go into the?" He goes, "When you first went into the gym, did you try and lift the heaviest weights and do it with incorrect form?" He goes, "No." He goes, "So why are you kicking with incorrect form?" And it's true, right? Like everything you do, you should do it to a high standard and be disciplined and get the fundamentals right first before you load on any weight, load on any power, and do those kinds of things. So I've always been a big proponent with my clients, like, hey, just start out with the bar, man. If you're just starting out, get really good and proficient in that movement and the squat pattern and the motor patterns. Once you do that, we will load the weight on, don't you worry. But we need to make sure that form is good first, so you can progress safely, and also get the kind of the best return in regards to muscle gain.
hmm How do you find kickboxing? Like, why did you pick kickboxing of all activities?
Cool. Yeah. So I did boxing last year, and I trained for a boxing fight last year, and I really enjoyed kind
Nice.
of doing the cardiovascular side of things. So I've been training in the gym for nearly 11 years, and I probably reached my natural potential of what I can achieve from a bodybuilding point of view. And I haven't taken anything kind of like any steroids or anything TRT. So
Apart,
for
apart from your Twitter comments, people saying you're
Ah,
on
yeah.
gear.
every day. It's every day now. Every day someone calls it, like, and
Good for the algo.
for me it's yeah, for me it's great, man, because I'm like, I'm natty here, and like these guys are like saying I'm on gear. I'm like, man, this is a great compliment. Thank you. Like, keep it coming, man.
Yeah.
Like, keep it coming.
Mhm.
You know, keep inflating my ego. You know, so
That's funny.
it's funny, man. But yeah, it's kind of like I've done a lot of like weight training. You could say I've done a lot of like, you could say bodybuilding style of training, and I just felt like from a fulfillment point of view, I wanted to try something new and something different, and then something interesting and challenging. So yeah, I just started boxing last year. I really enjoyed that, but because I'm on the shorter side, like my reach isn't kind of great, but obviously like my legs are a little bit longer, so I can reach a little bit further with my legs. So I'd say I'm probably more suited to kickboxing because like I've got a bit more of an advantage in that respect. And obviously I'm like half Asian, so it means that I have to be good at kickboxing as well, right? Let's not get that wrong. Of course, it's in my blood, right? So that's important.
Funny.
So yeah, man, I decided to do it, and I like it, man. It's a good mix of learning new motor patterns, being challenged kind of like mentally to try and like be disciplined in these things, and also it's great for my cardio, man, and helping me like build up my cardiovascular capacity. So very enjoyable, dude. Yeah, I really like it.
I do find that to be quite important outside of bodybuilding, because the thing about bodybuilding, man, is that if you're natural, like you can't do anything with it. Like, for instance, like you can't get super jacked and be like, oh, I want to like do a show because it's a natural thing to do, because everyone's going to be juiced anyway. So you're just going to make yourself miserable for no reason. And like
100%.
natural competitions are just like, I don't know, there's just no real valid reason for it. So even for me, like I always think about that as like I want to do something with it, but I can't technically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's about probably finding other goals, fitness related, something else you want to work on. But kickboxing seems to complement it quite well. Maybe your legs are kind of fucked for training legs, but overall you kind of make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And you just kind of adapt your training around that. So instead of training legs twice a week, I just kind of train them once a week. And then, that's enough volume for me to kind of maintain the size that I'm happy with. And then I do kickboxing like the other days, which obviously involves a lot of legs. So I don't want them to be too stiff, and kind of just focusing as well on a bit more holistic side of things. So for the kickboxing, you need to be kind of a lot more mobile as well. So, flexibility, mobility is now much more of a focus than it was before, because I need to get my kicks up high so I can kick these tall guys, right? So yeah, it's coming from down here at 5'7", it's hard, right? It's an upward spiral to try and get up there. So yeah, that's been a nice focus. And again, I'd just say like the training aspect is different, and like you want to keep it varied. Like for me, my goal isn't to like be in shape for a show or a photo shoot or a deadline. It's like continuously being healthy, man, continuously being challenged, continually enjoying my life, my training, feel like that I'm improving, and doing something a little bit different from what I'm used to, and challenging myself in that respect. And I feel like if I'm doing that all the time, I'll probably delve into lots of different things throughout the next like 10 years. My plan's not to be a competitive bodybuilder or a men's physique competitor, but just to be pretty good and lean when I go to the beach, and attract the girls that I want. But of course, also be a bit functional, know some self-defense, and yeah, things like that. So yeah, for me, it's just about being quite varied with things.
Nice, man. Before we finish up, what's one thing you want to achieve this year?
One thing I want to achieve this year. That's so I have some big business goals, man. I don't really like sharing the specifics, but
you don't need to go into too much detail.
Yeah,
I know sometimes people don't want to do that. That's chill.
Yeah. So I've got some big business goals this year. I mean, I'm at a point where I kind of I'm scaling my business quite well. So I want to get to the point where I've got like a kind of pretty hands off in regards to like everything that I'm doing. So I've outsourced quite a lot of stuff, but one of the big goals is to kind of have that all like kind of outsource, like have a full team doing a lot of the coaching, have a full team doing a lot of the marketing, have a full team doing this and that. And I'm kind of very much like working on the business, not in the business, which I've been doing for a long time. So I guess that's a big goal there. And obviously I'm going to have to hit some revenue numbers to achieve that, which, I should do this year. But yeah, that's kind of a big goal for me, man, for sure.
No doubt, man, you'll smash it. I really appreciate you taking the time for it, man. When you come out to Asia, we'll record. I have a studio in Singapore, and we can also
sick.
record.
I've seen that actually. Yeah, dope. I'm on that, man, for round 2. Let's do it. Yeah.
And we can. And if you end up going to Indonesia, we'll find a studio in Indonesia as well, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I really appreciate having me on. Thank you.